Okay, so according to this, I need to eat white beans, green lentils, lima beans, avoid red meat and eggs, and basically go vegetarian. Let's talk about this. Welcome back, you guys. My name is Sarah. I'm known as Carnivore Yogi over on Instagram. Thank you for coming back to my YouTube channel and clicking on today's video. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit more about these gut microbiome test results and food reintroductions, because I know a lot of you guys have been going out and getting this test, and I'm going to talk about what information is helpful data and what information you should probably just ignore. Thrive is a sponsor of mine. They sent me my initial test, but I've been paying for all of my tests ever since that initial one. But I will again link below this video that test in case you listen to this and you're like, this is something I want to check out for myself. So what's helpful information with this test? Well, I think it's helpful to know the bacteria in your gut, what's going on. And the test really does give you the actual data of what is going on with the bacteria in your gut. What are you deficient in? What are you overgrown in? And the other cool thing the test does is it will tell you, deficient bacteria with this type can lead to a slow metabolism. It can lead to trouble sleeping. It can lead to trouble with inflammation or healing a wound. There's a lot of really helpful information that I think people can use from getting this test that can kind of start to put them on the right path as far as healing their health goes. So I did my initial test in October, and it gives you a food list. So this is what I want to talk about, because a lot of people are getting this food list and they're getting really confused because of like what I said in the very beginning of this video. They're kind of being told not to really eat a lot of meat, to go more towards beans and grains and these types of things. And the people that follow me are, a lot of them, dealing with autoimmune issues, a lot of insulin resistance, which is autoimmune, by the way. And that's going to be really bad advice for them. So that's the other reason I want to make this video, is to say, we have to look at these things with nuance. And just because it says on the test that, like mine, for example, said I should eat spinach, I'm not going to go and start eating high oxalate foods, right? I'm not going to go and start eating foods that I know are high in anti-nutrients, even though it's on the thing, right? So the data, that's information that's useful to me, is to see the state of my gut, to see that bacteria. Now, from that initial test, if you guys don't already know this, I've talked about this in other videos, I found out that my gut bacteria deficiencies and overgrowths basically tended my body to have a slower metabolism and to hold on to weight. Now, I talked in depth with Kirian Krishnan, who is the head of Microbiome Labs, and I will link that in my podcast recently. Just last week I released that, depending on when you're watching this, but I will link that below this video. And I think that's something we need to pay attention to. Since that conversation, I've gone down the rabbit hole even more. And I have another video I'll put below this video with Dr. Sarah Gottfried, who I'd love to have on my podcast, but I don't know if I'm big enough yet to get her on, where she actually did talk about where she experienced this herself on a ketogenic diet, where she actually gained a little bit of weight, and she was very insulin resistant, and how she troubleshooted around that. So I'll talk a little bit more about that as well when you guys are reintroducing foods and looking at foods, how to go about that process. So I have, as the last video, I think I mentioned this, I did a live stream about a week ago. I mentioned that this was something I was going to do. I've started to introduce a couple foods, to try a couple things just to see how my system would respond. Number one, I was curious after talking to Kirian, about, do I need to do this? And then also I've been craving some variety. So I'm not going to change my name. It's still going to be Carnivore Yogi, because my whole channel is about questioning dogma. My whole platform is about questioning dogma and then providing people, once I question dogma, with resources. So I am playing around with trying some different foods out. Again, I'll talk to you about that process, but I'm not going to be shifting my name or any of that stuff, because I'm still on a meat-based diet. I still think that animal foods are going to provide us with the most absorbable nutrition and give our bodies those building blocks to thrive and survive. And I think it's really important to keep spreading that message to people, especially people who think that they can't eat meat because they do yoga or have some, practice that way. It's just silly. So Long story short, let's talk about the food reintroductions. Now, I did actually use the list that Thrive gave me, because when you get that list back from them, you can choose a ketogenic diet, right? That is a diet choice that you can choose to help them formulate your diet. But apparently they didn't get the memo about the lentils and beans not necessarily being ketogenic. So the foods that I have tried, again, I've tried stuff on the list that they gave me: asparagus, some avocado, some garlic, a little bit of onion. Those are a few things. And the way that I introduced foods, and that I suggest you do it if you're going to do it, is one thing at a time in small portions. So a small portion, and then you're going to wait 3 days before you try something else. You're also going to check in on your blood sugar. So you want to test your blood sugar at the very beginning of the meal to get a baseline, and then again at 20 minutes, and then again at 2 hours. If it goes up, it should not really go up more than 20 points. If it does, you're probably having some sort of a reaction to that food. And then again, you want to check it at the 2 hours to make sure you're back at baseline. Because two people can eat the exact same foods and have totally different blood sugar response. So someone, I know someone in one of my private groups, she wanted to try some cabbage, and her blood sugar shot up 100 points, which is crazy for cabbage, but that's definitely a food reaction, and it took about 4 hours for it to come back to baseline. So that was clearly a food reaction. So you want to do that, testing your blood sugar with your foods. And the video I post below this one with Dr. Sarah Gottfried, and the interview she did, she really talked about how she created a well-formulated ketogenic diet for herself, and that was basically what she did. She used a continuous glucose monitor, which is easier. I've been pricking my finger, but I do have a continuous glucose monitor recommendation from NutriSense that I'll link below this video if that's something you want to get for yourself. I will link that below, but I've been using a Keto Mojo personally. So that's the thing, is the blood sugar, and then waiting the 3 days just to make sure your sleep is still good, you don't have headaches or rash or runny nose or anything else. Typically it's going to show up in blood sugar, but you know, just to be safe, right? And then wait 3 days before you try something else. Okay, so these are just some things that I want you guys to take into account. Again, not medical advice, but if you do want to try to add some stuff back in, I think this stuff's really important. And again, Thrive test I think is extremely valuable. I sent mine away a couple weeks ago. I'll let you know what the results say. I did just stay carnivore for 90 days doing my last one, even though I had all those food recommendations. But the way I did carnivore was a varied carnivore diet. So why would this Thrive test tell you not to eat red meat, not to eat beef in particular, is one that I'm seeing across the board from people that are doing carnivore, is because they're probably just eating a lot of beef. And when you just eat one food, that creates a specific bacteria in the gut. And there's probably, what the test is picking up on from your sample, too much of the bacteria from just the red meat. So don't eliminate red meat. Don't go vegetarian. I'm not recommending, unless you really want to. I'm not going to recommend that. What I think is important is kind of what I did in that 90 days when I stayed carnivore, but added in the gut healing protocol, the probiotics, prebiotics, and a couple other things, was that I varied my carnivore diet. I made sure I was getting lots of collagen. Collagen's a great prebiotic fiber, believe it or not. It's a great prebiotic fiber. So I was getting collagen, I was getting bone marrow, I was getting different types of fat, I was rotating out meat, I was eating lamb, venison, I was eating a lot of wild caught fish. I was rotating, you know, I was changing out my fats, you know, not just sticking with beef suet, but also doing tallow, doing butter, doing ghee, those really nice healthy animal fats. I also, even though it said not to eat eggs, I still ate my egg yolks, I still ate some eggs. So I think that it's important to do those things, just if you're gonna stay carnivore, to make sure you vary it up, especially if you get that Thrive result back and it says don't eat beef. Don't cut your beef out, guys. I think still, even though, you know, I'm not sticking strict carnivore anymore, I think I'm mostly meat-based, animal-based, and I think that those are going to be your most bioavailable, absorbable nutrients that are going to be those building blocks to really help your body heal. So that's really important, that little piece of nuance there. So test, test, test. Make sure that what you're doing is working for you, okay? Nobody's telling you you have to do anything. This is not a dogmatic channel where I'm saying it has has to be one way, it has to be the other way. Just make sure things are working well for you. I'm going to be talking soon about my hair mineral test. I was able to correct my minerals staying carnivore as well, except for my calcium was still a little bit low, which is why I started adding in some raw dairy there at the end of that 90 days. But, you know, I think that you can still fix your minerals, you can still fix some things and stay carnivore. I don't know about long term. I think that long-term carnivores, there's not a ton of them around. And I talked to thousands of people, a lot of people, and I'm still not 100% sold that carnivore is good long term. I think it's great. I'm still going to be an advocate of it, again, to get your body to heal, to get out of that inflammatory mode and to start to figure out, get to root cause healing. But long term, I don't know. But I'm not going to change my platform. I'm not going to talk against carnivore and say people should never do it and it's horrible. But I am changing my tune a little bit. I'm not 100% sure, just from my vantage point, of not an expert of anyway, is that it's like a great thing for people to do forever. Again, just my personal opinion, which can also change. So I hope you're having a beautiful day, that you enjoyed this video. Questions, comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.